Yes, hello folks, welcome to the weekly Manchester United show. I'm your host as always, Phil Brown, joined with my regular co-host here, Colm McGuigan, my verbal sparring partner. How you doing, mate?
How you doing? All good?
Oh, good, mate. Not much to talk about today, is there?
Nah, I think we'll just start with the Dan James stuff, obviously.
Nah, it's a bit controversial this weekend. Dan James scoring against United and refusing to celebrate. Did anything
What
else
a
happen?
what a guy. I'll let you get into it first because you were very vocal on social media last night. I haven't really been on Twitter, but I just seen it there. So
Well, obviously, um, we should be sitting here talking about Christian Eriksen's first goal for Manchester United, Garnacho being absolutely outstanding. Exciting young player. Done something that every young player in the world dreams about. You score a last minute winner for Manchester United, and that is what we should be talking about today. But instead, we're talking about a malignant narcissist, and people won't thank me for making this analysis. I'm not comparing them completely. I'm comparing them as personalities. Their personalities are the same. Cristiano Ronaldo is essentially Donald Trump. He is completely incapable of taking any type of criticism, demands a ridiculous sense of loyalty to anyone around him, a petulant child when he doesn't get what he wants. Despite the fact he spends all day looking at himself in the mirror, can't find fault with himself, can't see what everyone else sees, that he's not what he thinks he is, that he has this narcissism about him, that the one thing you can guarantee, that the motivation for doing what he did yesterday was for a benefit to Cristiano Ronaldo. If there's an unintended consequence there where it benefits someone else or something else or some other narrative, it wasn't the intent. And it's no surprise to me he gave it to another sycophant in Piers Morgan. A despicable human being, a human being, of course, who hacked dead people's phones, who said the FA Cup was dead because Manchester United didn't play in it. But a guy who debases himself every single day on social media, being so obsequious to Cristiano Ronaldo on a level that is honestly embarrassing. Have you no agency? And this is what Ronaldo demands of people around him. And if Cristiano Ronaldo comes out and says what he says, Colm, 3-4 months into his tenure at Manchester United, then everything he says has weight, because a lot of what he said is correct. We know this. But he did it at a time that serves him. He made sure he used United to get fit for the World Cup. This is a guy who was captain of the football club a week ago. A guy who Erik ten Hag said, I'm not going to bring him on in a game out of respect for him in his career. Says he doesn't respect Erik ten Hag. A guy who clearly has got nothing to do with the problems that Ronaldo claims to have an issue with. And it also makes a terrible liar to Duncan Castles, because now he's saying everything that was briefed to Duncan Castles over the summer was wrong. He didn't actually want to leave. It's United trying to force him out. Now this is total nonsense. Right? This is mendacious nonsense. Ronaldo gave an interview in June saying how excited he was to work with Ten Hag and everything else, and then comes out and says he doesn't respect him. I mean, Erik ten Hag, in my opinion, has been overly generous to him. And the things that I don't understand did Ronaldo not notice this when he was back with Juventus? When United played them in the Champions League, that we know the pool and the jacuzzi, the infrastructure is a disgrace. We know this. Right? You're not doing a great reveal here, where all of a sudden United fans are being enlightened. So we've known about the infrastructure problems. He will have known about them. His agent should have known about them, given how many clients he's had at United. Did he not speak to Jojo Dallo? Did he not speak to Bruno Fernandes? Did he not call Casemiro and say, hey, don't be coming here, mate? Rafael Varane, hey, don't be going there, Rafa. Club's a mess. All these problems that supposedly exist. And this is the reason why Cristiano Ronaldo's coming out right when he goes to the World Cup and says this. I mean, if anyone turns around and thinks this is about anything other than Cristiano Ronaldo, I mean, Jesus Christ, pull your head out of your arse.
I think there's a few things. So it's mind blowing to me that Ten Hag gave him the captaincy last week.
Mm-hmm.
If all this is going on,
Agreed.
why give him the captaincy? So first off, when Ronaldo joined, as you said, everything was fine, everything went smooth. If he had all these problems, and he did refer to not being wanted last season either, he also named Ranić. And to be honest, he's probably right in what he's saying in some of his things. The way he's went about it's the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So he said about Ranić being a sporting director, not a coach. The whole world wasn't sure about him. He's disrespected Ralph Ranić there, who again seems like a decent guy.
Mm-hmm.
Ronaldo's thrown him out lamb to slaughter type of thing. But in terms of what he said about Ranić, it's all true. The things that he said about the training ground is true. The infrastructure of the club, it's all true. He's went about it the wrong way, and he's dragged Ten Hag into it when he shouldn't have. We should really be talking about Garnacho this weekend and the talent that he is, but now the whole world has forgot about Garnacho. It's all about Ronaldo, and that's what Ronaldo wants. Ronaldo only cares about himself. You referred to it there where you said that, Ronaldo didn't do this for any other reason, and if there's other reasons come out of it, so be it. And there is other things that will come out of this. This is one of the best players in the world, one of the biggest stars in the world, putting the Glazers on blast,
but it's not
part of me wants
yeah.
part of me wants that. So part of it is true that the Glazers are going to be, there's going to be a lot of discussion here. Ten Hag's been thrown into this, but we can't sit here and stick up for Ten Hag either, because you have to realise Ten Hag gave him the captaincy last week. Why? Ten Hag, to me, doesn't seem like that guy that's going to just appease Cristiano Ronaldo, evidently. So why give him the captaincy last week if all this is going on? And that's the part that I can't understand.
Yeah, look, there's a gradient here of things that are wrong, and in my opinion, he shouldn't have got the captaincy. I agree with you, but I don't think that's an indictment on Ten Hag. I think that, if anything, it's an indictment on Ronaldo and his argument about him not being treated fairly or being respected. I don't know what else he would have expected from Erik Ten Hag. I don't know what else he would have expected from someone else. I mean, there's certain issues that I have with... this is not Roy Keane's Saipan here. This is not someone sitting down going, the setup behind the scenes is disgracefully unprofessional and sacrificing himself for what ended up being an important moment in Irish football history that propelled them into some level of professionalism. If there's unintended consequences where it brings further scrutiny on the Glazer ownership, which, look, and I agree with you that there's a lot of what he said is correct, but it's lost in the motivation for the interview, because the motivation is 110% self-serving. And the timing of it, this is again reflective of the fact that he's so badly advised. Now, I think what he tried to do yesterday was he tried to be smart. He tried to pick things that the fans are upset about and try to claim it was about that to win the argument, right? Let's have it right, Colm. Ronaldo doesn't care about any of these things. Ronaldo cares about himself, and he cares about his own objectives, and that's okay. That's what makes him great. The problem is his body's declined, his mentality hasn't, and so his mentality is commensurate with a player that no longer exists. And you can't pick a player based on what they did before. You can't pick a player based on reputation. You have to pick on based on a player right now. And when United were drawing 1-1 against Fulham, not once did I think, if only you had Ronaldo here. Did you?
No.
Okay. So the guy's finished as a top-level footballer. That's blatantly obvious. He once played like one, right? Cristiano Ronaldo could have turned around after 3-4 months, and he would have been... If you go back to last year when Ranić was brought in, right? United fans were protesting, really upset. The time to make yourself a martyr for the football club would have been then. If he wanted to turn around and highlight the issues that are going on behind the scenes, United fans would have welcomed that. But to do it now, when Erik Ten Hag is doing everything he can to fix the problems that Ronaldo has illustrated, I don't understand how you can be so stupid. You want to do this after United have just beat Fulham, when the fans are feeling great about Ten Hag, feeling great about what's happening, and then you want to get yourself in an argument with over this place isn't big enough for the two of us. I mean, you can never play for United again, ever. There's no way you can put that guy in a Man United shirt and try to reconcile the differences with Erik Ten Hag, because what he did over the summer, there was a sense that maybe he's made peace and he could stay there. Now he can't, right? And I look at this and I'm thinking, if you look at the entire content of the interview, it is so embarrassing. And again, I'm looking at a professional that's so poorly advised that I don't understand why how this helps him at all. I don't understand how this all of a sudden gets him an outcome that he wants. Because here's the thing, Colm. Let's say his argument is correct that United are trying to keep him or trying to force him out, right? And he just is this poor put upon football that wants to stay and play for Manchester United. None of this helps that objective. None of this, right? If you want out, well, maybe this helps you because now your position is completely untenable. But now the question is, who wants you, right?
Well, that was the question in August whenever we were saying who wants him, right? And it's quite evident that Ronaldo came out and said something along the lines of, "I'll reveal all" in a big interview. If you remember, he said that.
Now, why didn't he do it then?
Exactly, and that's my point. Is he didn't do it in August because he wanted to get himself fit
Of
for the World
course,
Cup. No one else wanted him, and he wanted to be fit for the
of
World Cup.
course.
So it shows his mentality in this whole situation. But then you have to refer back to things like Roy Keane, for example. If this happened in Roy Keane's dressing room with a player, can you imagine how Roy Keane would react? Yet he reacts completely differently because it's Cristiano Ronaldo, and he knows Cristiano Ronaldo, who he is, what he is, and he wants to keep that relationship with Ronaldo for whatever reason. Because to me, Keane was never like that. On the other hand,
Well,
he's
he
got
also left the
Gary
football
Neville.
club
I know
under
he
bad
did.
circumstances too, and so I can
No,
see why he has this attitude.
well, not really. I mean, it was under bad circumstances, but Ronaldo has went a step beyond what Keane ever done. But at the same time, if we're also thinking about the whole situation with Gary Neville spoke out against him. He doesn't want anything to do with him. Rio Ferdinand is another one who's stuck up for him constantly. I don't understand it. There is nothing you can say now to back up Cristiano Ronaldo. I admittedly was the biggest Ronaldo fanboy there was, like to an extent that I should never have been. Even saying to you on this podcast a few months ago how I thought he would turn it around. It's a disgrace. He needs to go. And like he refers to this whole thing in that interview. He referred to Sir Alex Ferguson, and he said how he didn't want to disrespect him. He's just done the biggest disrespect of Sir Alex Ferguson he could have done,
Oh,
because Ferguson has said
again,
that you can never ever. There's no player bigger than the manager, and Ronaldo thinks he is, and that's a serious problem.
here's the thing, Colm, right? If United didn't have all the problems Cristiano Ronaldo talks about, Cristiano Ronaldo wouldn't be there, right? Because a proper functioning football club that employs sports science and everything else doesn't sign Ronaldo. So basically, United signed him to stop him going to City. You know, he was an Ed Woodward signing. Ed Woodward convinced the Solskjaer and the Glazers that this was the right thing to do. Ferguson didn't want him going to City, didn't want him winning the European Cup at City. I can understand why United didn't want that happening, but a protest against that, I mean, it's you have to learn from the Alexis Sanchez situation. You know, it's not always good to sign a player just because you don't want them to go there. Under Ferguson's tenure, Schmeichel went to City, right? United legend. I understand it was a different Manchester City, right? But if United had all those problems fixed, he wouldn't be there. Hence the reason why football clubs that are capable of winning the Champions League, which are run properly, won't sign him, because they're seeing the same thing, right? So because Manchester United are a bit of a circus at times under Woodward, he was able to come back. And if, like I said, if he'd have done this at a time when he was playing every week, where you can say to yourself, okay, he's not being left out. He's not, he's part. He's not, he has no motivation. There's no incentive for him to do what he's just done. Then I'm a lot more sympathetic to this, because we criticise players for not being honest. We criticise managers for signing NDAs and leaving and refusing to reveal what's going on and all that. And so, in some sense, with Ronaldo, for a lot of young kids, Ronaldo was bigger than Manchester United. That's a fact. And so he has tremendous reach with his voice. If he wanted to join the Glazer out movement, he could have done so much in a much more effective way. Now, I've criticised people in the past. I've criticised Ferguson for not criticising the Glazers. And there's more of this interview to be revealed. If he comes out and skewers the Glazers personally, I will be ecstatic. Now, I'm not going to give him credit for doing it in the sense that he's joined the Glazer out campaign. And I accept that I'll take any scrap you can give me, even if it's not perfect. You know, anything that increases the focus on them, even if it's an unintended consequence, I'll take a positive from this negative. But overwhelmingly, I wish this interview hadn't happened, because it didn't need to happen, Colm. In any particular football club, there will be a bunch of players wanting to leave for very good reasons. And you just don't wash it, and you don't wash your dirty laundry in public like that. The signals going in the dressing room are supposed to be sacred. And and there's a lot that hasn't come out that has happened inside United with Ronaldo over the last 12 months, some of it I've been told and I can't repeat, that doesn't reflect well on him.
What do we do now? This leaves you with a burning desire for a striker in January that now is non-negotiable, that you say now.
Agree.
A striker in January. It leaves you with a situation where do you terminate Ronaldo's contract? Do you let him rot in 21s? What do you do with Cristiano Ronaldo? Because he's done the worst. He can't do anything worse than what he's done. So
I wouldn't terminate his contract.
I mean,
I'll tell you what I would do with him. I would make him come to United with a solution. If you want out in January, get someone to come up and give us money to release you 6 months early. If not, you're going to stay contract to Manchester United. You'll never play in the first team, and you'll be put in the under 23s. You'll not play there either, but you'll train with them if you want, and you can sit there for 6 months. That'll drive him nuts.
but then he'll just refuse to train.
Okay, well then he's in breach of contract, in which case United don't
You're
have
going
to
to
pay
terminate
him.
his contract. I know, but then you're going to terminate his contract.
Okay, but you don't have to pay him. You don't have to pay him up. He's making 700-800 grand a week. So if you think that, what's it? That's 3.2 million a month. So even to pay him up for 6 months, right? 6 times 3. That's a
18
lot.
million.
I'm joking. So that's a lot of money, and it means from a United perspective, look, for Ten Hag, it solves a problem immediately, and it also will force United to having to do something in January, right? Which, if you watched United yesterday, they're crying out for a striker. I mean, Garnacho saved United yesterday. But I'm sitting there, and honestly, I went from anger to elation, because I'm sitting there, and I know Christian Eriksen missed his chance, but again, I'm sitting there going, Marcus Rashford has missed 2 or 3 great opportunities in this game, in the same way he did against Newcastle, which cost United 2 points, in exactly the same way they did against Chelsea. He was bailed out at Everton by Ronaldo, right? Scoring that goal. And then going, this forward line cannot keep costing United. It has to win them games, not cost them games. If United won those other 2 games, they'd be 2 points behind City. Right? I would have taken that going into January, or going into the World Cup. So they have to do something. If Mikel Arteta is going to get money in January, there's no excuse for United not giving Erik Ten Hag money in January, especially now. Cristiano Ronaldo is someone that can never play for his football club again. And look, sometimes in any relationship, there's a lot can be said. Cristiano Ronaldo owes Manchester United fans. United fans have sung his name for 20 years, Colm, right? Since he came in 2003. They sang his name when he was at Real Madrid, when they were waving white hankies like a teenager in his bedroom, right? Wanting him out. Still sang his name, despite the way he left in 2009, which was a complete betrayal to everything United had done for him and to Ferguson. And now he's done it again to Ferguson. I mean, if I'm Ferguson, I'm, wash my hands of this kid. Florentino Perez called him correct. Great player, probably one of the greatest players in the history of Manchester United. But make no mistake about it, it was always a marriage of convenience for him.
I think the most telling thing is that after we won in Moscow in 2008, the first thing Ronaldo done was try and get himself out and got that move to Real Madrid. And I mean, in terms of what it's done now, it's hampered his reputation with United fans. But as you've referred to, plenty of others that have done this before and different things, and he'll always be remembered as a Manchester United great, whether some people like that or not. He always will be remembered. It's sad that he's went out this way, really, because this should have been Ronaldo helping Ten Hag bring Manchester United back to the top, and unfortunately it hasn't worked out that way. I mean, you've said it, Ronaldo only cares about himself, and it's evident now. Like for me, it was paper over the cracks for many years whenever I just thought, Cristiano Ronaldo, I was in that mind space of Ronaldo is the man. He's going to turn things around. He didn't do it. He didn't perform. I mean, other than that last minute Villarreal goal, what really did he do since he came in?
Look,
he got some important goals last year. This year he's been non-existent. It was time for him to go in the summer. No one wanted him. Like you said, he didn't have a move anywhere. He used us to get himself fit for the World Cup. Mm-hmm. He's got there and now he's sunk us, and that's the simple of it.
Yeah, and look, I think a lot gets revealed by his emotional immaturity and his sensitivity to Gary Neville, a guy he played with for a decade, right? or whatever. But, I mean, he played with Gary Neville for about 5, 6 years. You can't take the mildest criticism. I mean, Wayne Rooney. By the way, Wayne Rooney, who had every reason to smack him around the head after what he did at the Euros, trying to get him sent off, right? Who forgave him that time. I mean, if you go through Ronaldo's career consistently, the one thing that shows up is he always acts in his own best interest. If that happens to coincide with somebody else's, that's an accident. Now, that's exactly what happens when he plays for your team. He's so driven for personal goals, which of course means that propels your team to other goals such as Champions Leagues and what have you. But Cristiano Ronaldo is the type of guy that if you lose 6-1 and he scores, he goes home happy. As long as I score.
I'm not backing him up here, right? But let's just play devil's advocate for a minute and say that a lot of what he's saying is right.
Yes.
He hasn't been respected at the club since he came in.
No, I know. I disagree with that part, but everything else I agree with. But infrastructure, well, no, he's definitely been respected, mate. I would disagree with that.
No, he's been disrespected because whenever he came into the club, the Glazers didn't back the team like they should have. They put a man in charge that they should never put in charge. They've now got the right man in charge, and unfortunately for Ronaldo, this year he's just passed it. If Ten Hag was in last year, with Ronaldo performing like Ronaldo performed last year when he got some crucial goals, it could have been a different story altogether. Yes, Ronaldo has used this in his own best interest because he's selfish and he's came out and said things that he shouldn't have said, but that was all because this year Ten Hag is no nonsense. Ten Hag doesn't want them about and he doesn't like it because he feels like he should be the main man. Don't get twisted here. The Glazers have done totally wrong for Manchester United and Ronaldo is bringing that to the world's eyes now. What Ronaldo's saying in this interview, we haven't heard the full interview, but there's going to be more comes out. But they have disrespected him. They have.
So let's take that apart. So we signed last season at the end of the window, right? So he will have known when he signed how the manager was backed or not backed. And let's say if manager was backed with a proper striker, Ronaldo wouldn't have been there. Anyway. So he came to a dysfunctional football club, which was blatantly obvious to anyone that's been paying remote attention.
Dysfunctional why, though?
Well, we all know why, right? It's disgraceful how it's run behind the scenes, right? So the sack Solskjaer into his reign. So basically, the only window United didn't buy when he was there was last January, right? This year, they spent the second most of any football club in the world, right? So can't argue about manager not being backed because the new manager is being backed and some of his mates were brought in. One of his mates brought in from Real Madrid, the other one brought in from Real Madrid with Rafael Varane. They spent 100 million on Anthony, so does that to me is not a legitimate argument.
Well, put it this way, right? Sorry, Ronaldo doesn't love United like he said he did, right?
Of course, he loves himself.
He had one foot in the door at City, right? United come knocking. Ferguson speaks to him and says, come to United. Mm-hmm. At that point, we'll wait and see the full interview. I would say I'm 99% sure that he was made promises. He was made promises from the club that they would back in certain ways. They didn't. They sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the first opportunity. Whether that was right or wrong remains to be seen, and everyone has their own opinion on it, right? Whether he should have been sacked at the time or not, if he should have been given more time. He was sacked. They brought in Ralph Rangnick, who should never have been in the position of manager. Whether we like it or not, he shouldn't have been. That was a quick fix. Again, reactive situation, not proactive in their search for a manager. And that's telling of the whole board and the directorship that we have at Manchester United, right? Ronaldo's disrespected in that regard. He carries the team last season on his own back because no one else performed last season. I think that's fair to say as well. Okay? This season, he doesn't like it because there's other players that have come in and outperformed him in terms of in the fans' eyes. You've got the likes of Martinez, who's now a fan favourite. Ronaldo doesn't like that because he likes to be the main man. Ronaldo was disrespected last year. He's now disrespected the club by coming out. But he is absolutely right in half of the things he said. And that's the worst thing about this is, yes, he shouldn't have done the interview. But he is right in most of the things that he's come out and said.
Yeah, but this is different. So basically, his argument is, because the only manager United could have backed, I mean, the next window available where United could have spent money was last January. So his argument is United didn't back a manager he didn't rate, that he thought somebody he'd never heard of. And look, you can argue that Rangnick shouldn't have been there. It's an interim manager, right? You're not supposed to
But
get.
at a
But hold
club
on, man.
like
Let me
United,
finish.
should we have
Okay,
had
this is
an
this is
interim
this is
manager? No.
important. Yes, of course. Whether they should have had an interim manager really is irrelevant. This is not about Ralph Rangnick. If United had hired Zinedine Zidane as the interim manager, it wouldn't have been about. If you really think if Zinedine Zidane comes in last January and says, first thing we have to do, boys, we have to get a world class striker. Ronaldo, your bench mate. You think Ronaldo would be sitting there 6 months later going, cracker manager, mate, totally understand why I get benched there, because this is about the football club, this is about Manchester United fans, this is about United being successful, this is not about me, this is not about me playing, this is not about any of that, this is about the bigger picture, this is solely about the football club and the manager and the jacuzzi and the pool and Gary Neville and Wayne Rooney and
Well, all those
do
things
you
are
really
in
think that
place.
would have happened?
No, I don't. Right, I agree.
So
with
clearly
you.
this isn't about Ralph Rangnick. This is
No, no,
nothing
no.
to do with Ralph
It's not.
Rangnick.
But it all feeds into my point that the Glazers have done so much wrong at Manchester United. This is the biggest star at our club, the biggest household name at our
He
club.
was there
is
in
putting them on
2000.
blast.
United sold him in 2009 and never replaced him. Do you think that it was news to Ronaldo that the Glazers are parsimonious?
Well, I mean, he clearly thought that there would have been some sort of change at the football club since he left. I mean, having the same jacuzzi, the same kitchen, that is an absolute.
Well, then why
disgrace.
didn't he say this last
We're
January?
talking almost 20 years.
Why didn't he come out? Why didn't he come out and say this last January then?
Because again, like he's came into the club.
Because he's self-serving.
No, and I
Because
agree.
he was.
with you.
Do you? If United were sitting in the Champions League right now, competing for titles, do you
And
think?
he
He was
wasn't
playing
playing.
every. Do you think he said any of this?
Every week, no, but if he
What,
wasn't,
so this is not about the football club or what's best for football. Because it's about Cristiano
no,
Ronaldo.
but
That's it.
But as part of this, there is a good side to this coming out that the Glazers are put on blast. Anything that
Yes,
can
but
take
that's
the
an
Glazers
unintended
down.
consequence. He doesn't get credit for that because that's not his motivation.
I'm not giving the credit to Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm saying this is good because it puts more eyes on the Glazers and puts more eyes on the wrongdoings that have been going on at the club.
Does it? Tell me,
Yes.
who do you feel will be influenced by this that didn't care before?
There's going to be hundreds of thousands of people that listen to this interview just because it's Cristiano Ronaldo that
Sure.
don't realize the ongoings at this club that
Okay.
me and you and every other fan watching this realize
So
because
let's
we're in
let's
this
take your
every
point there.
day.
Let's take your point there. Someone at this stage of their life is completely uninformed about what's going on behind the scenes at Manchester United somehow, but they're going to watch this interview, and these are particular people of influence that will influence the outcome as to whether the Glazers keep Manchester United or not. Who are these people?
It's not about that. I'm saying it's the more focus and the more eyes that we get on this Glazers out campaign, the better. And I mean, this is okay. You've said it's an unintended consequence. I'm not saying for 1 second Ronaldo had in his mind, "Oh, I'm going to appease the United fans by doing this." I agree with you. He tried to make that interview. He was thought he was smart in terms of what he was saying to try and get the fans on side. At the end of the day, he's still getting eyes on this campaign. He's getting eyes on all the wrongdoings that the Glazers have done. That's a good thing. Ronaldo was going to leave regardless. Simple as that. He was going to leave regardless.
Come with that. I'm virulent anti-Glazer, and people like me are still looking at this interview and not saying this has anything to do with the Glazers out. This has got nothing to do with anti-Glazer, anything. And because he's so easy to attack and the motivations of this interview are so easy to identify, this will do nothing for the Glazers and put pressure on, because it's so easy for them to deflect and go, this is a petulant football, they're crying because he's not playing. And 95% of people covering this will agree.
But then that goes against what you've been saying all along, that Joel Glazer's the reason why Ronaldo's still at Manchester United. So where does that come into this?
Of course, and so this is what I'm saying. Like this is how it's so obsequious nonsense, to turn around and say that he's been disrespected. Ronaldo was at Manchester United for two reasons. One, because it's a massively dysfunctional football club. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been signed in the first place. And two, because United didn't want to spend the money to replace him over the summer, so they didn't want to sell him. So the idea that he's being forced out by executives is just complete and utter nonsense. The reverse is true, right? But this is what you would say whenever your agent can't get you a particular football club. It's not me, it's you. So Cristiano, when does Ronaldo hold the hands up and say, yeah, I could have done that better, or maybe I mishandled that, or there's not one single moment where he has been self-deprecating. Not one single moment where he's held his hands up and said, that apology, for example, over not coming on, didn't apologise to the fans. because he is so insular. He is so narcissistic. He can't understand how his behaviour negatively impacts someone. And so it's always all about him. Always. I mean, just listen to the words he's talking about with the fans. That the fans decide to turn on me, that's okay. He doesn't care about any of this. He doesn't care about the United fans. He couldn't. That time he walked down the tunnel, right, there was a kid reached out to him, maybe 9 or 10, to high five him. And the fucking weirdo blanked him. Right? A child who probably idolises him. Right? What's it take to... I mean, I understand you can have bad moments. I even understood why he did what he did at Everton when he smacked the phone out of the kid's hands. I get it, you're a human being. But you are 100% in the wrong. To not... I mean, Tevez did that at City and didn't play for 6 months. But Ronaldo had the captaincy 2 weeks later.
I get what you're saying, right? And this might be an unpopular opinion, but what this guy Michael Tobin's just wrote in, I don't know if you can put that up there, where he said that we need to reserve our judgment until we see the whole interview. I agree, because we're seeing snippets that Piers Morgan wants to sell the interview on. We're seeing no. I know what you're going to say. No, but I'm just telling you why he's put this out and why he's put these clips out. They are the big sellers. They're the things that people are going to go, I need to watch this interview. Because you guarantee it, so many people on Wednesday are going to be scouring the web until the minute this comes out, right? The minute it comes out, then we can have a proper judgment on Ronaldo. No. Definitely what he's done is wrong, right? I'm not saying for 1 second anything that he said is right, but there's going to be a circumstance that comes out of this that is good for Manchester United in terms of the thing with the Glazers. Ronaldo was going regardless, mate. Ronaldo was... We've watched him this season. He's not been at the races. We know he was going to leave. So he's came out, he spoke, he said things he probably shouldn't have said. Let's watch the whole interview and then reserve judgment. Let's change this conversation from Ronaldo to Garnacho, because that kid at the weekend, you said it, the dream for any kid who grows up watching Manchester United.
Before I get to Garnacho, because I want to tell him something, I don't need to hear the rest of the interview. Because I already know that the entire interview is done 100% with the motivation of what's best for Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's it.
I know, mate, but that you can't.
But no. Because here's the thing. It goes back to even the nonsense over the summer about the Champions League. You wanted to wait to July to make an issue out of that? No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to turn around a year and a half when you're getting dropped and you're not playing and you're getting left out to then say this is about what's best for Manchester United. This is about how bad it is behind the scenes. Look, son, you were there with Juventus, right? When Mourinho played them. Did you not see it then? Did you not know when Diogo Dalot, your Portuguese teammate, was playing there, or Bruno Fernandes was playing there? Did you not know? Did your agent not know? Whenever this is being talked about, tell me one single thing Cristiano Ronaldo has said that hasn't been said 1,000,000 times before. But what is he telling you don't know?
Okay, but
that matters.
But you're saying here that you don't want to see the rest of the interview because
it doesn't matter to me. I don't care what he says at this point because it's so.
Morgan has put out to sell. We don't know the full facts of the interview. I think it's fair enough to say that you want to see the whole interview and reserve judgment on it, like that guy said there. I agree with it.
I've seen enough.
Idiot. No, but you say you've seen enough. There's so much more to come out of this interview. We don't know if half.
I don't care if he turns around and says, and by the way, I'm going to be a missionary in Rwanda to feed kids and I don't care.
No, come on,
because this is not about. No. I'm serious. There's nothing he could turn around and say that in that interview that would mitigate it or redeem himself.
Okay,
because Cristiano Ronaldo will not say or do anything that isn't about what's best for Cristiano Ronaldo. That's it.
Okay. But see if we're talking about the comments that I made on this podcast, probably in around the summertime, whenever I said, look, there's things going on in this guy's life. There's problems that he hasn't come out, right? He has said, no, I agree with that. I agree he wants to get out. But at the same time, he has said that people didn't respect whenever there was a problem with his daughter in the summer. We've seen that.
He should never respect him. He wasn't allowed to go on tour.
Because he said at the beginning they didn't believe him. He had to force his way out of the tour, from what I've read. So again, we haven't listened to the whole interview. We have to reserve our judgment until then.
I'm going to tell you something. United are guilty of a lot of things. And one thing they're not guilty of is being insensitive when it comes to certain things like this. I mean, that there's just no way that United would have turned around and done. I mean, everything gets leaked inside that football club. Everything, right? The first thing they think about when they're confronted with a situation like that is what's going to happen when this hits the press, right? And whether it's a football club that's been guilty many, many times of not being led by a moral compass. I accept that. The Super League, Marko Nudovic, all that. I get that.
Okay, so would
Because
you have
it's
preferred
expedient.
Ronaldo? Would you have preferred Ronaldo to leave in January? Like he probably was going to leave in January, if not he's going to leave in the summer, and said nothing, not questioned the Glazers, not questioned the ownership, not questioned the reason to bring Ranić into the side.
I got no
Forget
issue
about the
with
Ten
any of that.
Hag comments because that's completely wrong, right? He should never have brought Ten Hag into it. He did, and that's Ronaldo's downfall in this situation. But everything else he said, I agree with.
Okay, so imagine that was his real incentive, was to turn around and highlight the issues that are going on behind the football club. Right, imagine that's Cristiano Ronaldo's incentive. Even if he didn't do it last January, the time to do it was over the summer. United's protests were reaching a crescendo. The fans were livid. The fans would have loved someone like Cristiano Ronaldo to come out and do something like this. If Cristiano Ronaldo rings someone like in 1958 or fan groups and turns around and says, I'm all in. I'll come out and make a statement about everything that's going on behind the football club, about these disgraceful owners, and we'll make it about that.
Okay. I agree.
Then, no, let me finish because this is important because I don't want to have to argue something. So, if he does that, great. Then I'm all in. But none of this is about that, Colm. Right? He is using these issues to try to disguise the fact that this was all about him and not playing every week and not playing and chasing Messi's records. And Manchester United were of use to him when they could help him, but once United weren't in a position to serve him, then he turned around and shit all over the football club. That's it. That's all it is. And I'm going to tell you it's about this, I'm going to tell you it's about this, I'm going to tell you, anyone that's been in any type of relationship will know this happens in every argument. This is straw man argument, the whole definition of straw man. Right? This has got nothing to do with the Glazers. This has got nothing to do with any of that. Right? This has got to do with, we know.
We haven't seen the full interview, and what I'm saying is you know yourself, whenever you're in an argument or you're trying to explain something, there is reasons that you say things that you don't mean to say. Maybe for all we know, he only mentioned Ten Hag once in that whole interview, which is a possibility, right? Piers Morgan has used that snippet to sell this interview.
We don't know. To be fair, Colm, he said it.
Okay, no. I'm
Whether
not
he used it or not, there's a reason why he used it, because he said it.
But what I'm saying is Ronaldo might have said that. That could have been a slip of the tongue question Ten Hag. It could have been. We don't know. It could have been the only time he mentioned him in the whole.
Did he correct himself?
No, but
so it wasn't a slip of the tongue. We haven't clearly intended to say it.
He could have went on to a sentence after that and said, "Look, Ten Hag for me has done this wrong, whatever." I don't know. I'm just saying we need to see the full interview and then we can base an opinion. Ronaldo's wrong, in my opinion.
Well, you can base an opinion on what he said in the interview. That's one thing, but the reasons for doing it are obvious. This has got nothing to do with what's best for United. I mean, there's no point in debating why he did it, because we know why he did it. It wasn't to serve you or me, or because he has a benevolent feeling towards United fans, or because he cares about the Glazers, right? I mean, to attribute anything like that to him is totally insane and a complete inability to be honest, intellectually honest with yourself. Because clearly this has got nothing to do with anything other than what's best for him.
I'm not disputing that. I think it's all to do with what's best for Ronaldo. It's all to do with Ronaldo's ego. It's all to do with what Ronaldo wants and what Ronaldo needs. But at the same time, we don't know the full facts of this interview, so I think we should. We can, like, my judgment on it right now is Ronaldo's wrong. Terminate his contract. Get him out of here. That's how I feel right now. Right? Get him out of the club. Don't want him there anymore. He's not doing anything for us. But let's see the full interview and let's see if maybe he does attack the Glazers. Let's see what he says about the Glazers. Let's see if it actually is beneficial to United in the end, because we're only seeing small snippets of an interview that Piers Morgan's using to get clicks, to get paid. It's as simple as that.
Nah, to be fair to Piers Morgan, Cristiano Ronaldo did the interview. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't have a gun held to his head to say what he said. Cristiano Ronaldo is the reason why no one's watching this for Piers Morgan, right? I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo could have been interviewed by a scarecrow. It would make no difference.
But it makes no sense to me that he criticizes Ten Hag, right? So he criticizes Ten Hag in the interview, and he shouldn't have. but Ten Hag makes him captain last week. Surely, if that relationship's so bad, and Ronaldo is in the mindset of Ten Hag, it's a problem, he's disrespecting me, why give him the captaincy last week?
Well,
That to me is completely. I can't understand it for a second.
well, you can argue that. I mean, but what I would say is, if I look at that, there's only one person who comes out of that bad, and it's not Ten Hag, it's Ronaldo.
No,
Because the one thing he can't say is United didn't give him an opportunity. I mean, maybe Ten Hag's being smart. Maybe Ten Hag gave him the captaincy knowing exactly where this was going, so that he could turn around and go, listen, he was played, he was made club captain, he was given everything he was ever asked for. Not our problem. I mean, if he wasn't played all season and he was benched and marginalised, like I think that should have happened, maybe he's got you can turn around and go, okay, I get it. But when I look at what Ten Hag is doing, Solskjaer accommodated players on an individual basis, and it wrecked the dressing room. Completely wrecked it. So when Ronaldo was catered to last season, internally the football club was a mess. And there was constant reports of fights with players, fist fights, Maguire, Ronaldo, other players with Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, lots of things. Right? Ten Hag comes in and fixes these problems, which is blatantly obvious that he has. Right? And all of a sudden, this doesn't suit Ronaldo. Why? Because there's no more favoritism. It's blanket discipline equally applied to everybody. Don't care who you are. You earn a place in this team. You don't get picked because you're chasing records, or because you're bigger than a football club, or because you're going to go to the press. United cannot react to that type of intimidation. They must say, you know what? You have no power to pick this team. There's nothing you can do to influence you getting picked or getting treated differently than anybody else. Nothing. Lots of players have had to accept their careers come to an end. They don't get picked every week. Go through any legend when they reach that point in their careers, right? Glenn Hoddle on the bench for Chelsea. Maradona on the bench for Boca Juniors. This happens everywhere. And I know it's difficult to accept when you're at the end of your career, when you've still got the same mentality you had at 21, 22, 23, that I'm the best ever, and it's difficult to accept that you aren't. But you have to have you have to be surrounded by people that can turn around with you and say, Cristiano, you're 37, 38 years of age. Okay? You are not 26, 27. There is nowhere for you to go at a top club where you're going to start every week. And now Ronaldo's put himself in a position where he's going to have to make that happen for him to have any credibility in this discussion. Now George Mendes has to go out and say, see, it's not United, or it's not my client, it's United. Ronaldo has to go now and have an amazing World Cup. He now has to go find a top club that's willing to take him in January where he's going to start. I don't think he can do either of those things.
Let's see how he performs at the World Cup. But I mean, I think he ends up at Sporting Lisbon. I think that's probably the only place that he could end up. But yeah, it's unfortunate this happened. But let's talk about it again whenever the full interview's done, and then we can probably say more about that.
Boss, let's never let me forget. When you get to my age, I'm telling you, every joke sounds like you told it the first time. I have to listen to my dad tell me the same joke he's been telling me for 35 years, and I haven't got the heart to tell him. I've heard it over and over again. But anyway, I don't you. I mean, I'm curious to see what's in the rest of this interview. But the fact that it's being bled out over days means this shite is going to stay in the news for days and days and days, and this is what's going to dominate the discussion, not all the positive things that are happening. And what does this do? The other negative effect is if you're another player that wants to come to Manchester United in January, I don't think this is good for the football club's image in attracting other players. But I also think, like you said, it's such an easy interview to discredit and make it about if you want to make it about the Glazers, make it solely about the Glazers and do it at a time.
But that doesn't do the clicks for Piers Morgan, and that's my point.
No, it's not about Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan doesn't determine when this interview happens. Piers Morgan doesn't determine what's in this interview. This has got nothing to do with Piers Morgan. This has got to do with Cristiano Ronaldo. But I'm talking about Ronaldo needed to do this interview a year ago, and then it has credibility.
But I don't think you're. So this is all going out on Pierce Morgan's new thing, uncensored, where he gets all these interviews. He puts them up on his YouTube. He wants to gain subscribers and clicks from this. He's not going to do that if he has a headline: Ronaldo slams the Glazers. If that's his main headline, because the average Joe on the street doesn't give a shit about that. Doesn't even know who the Glazers are. Doesn't probably know much about Ronaldo. This is all about Pierce Morgan in terms of growing his platform. So yes, Ronaldo didn't have to do the interview, but that's why I'm saying he's put out these clips.
Yeah, but Ronaldo consented to all of this. Ronaldo consented. Pierce Morgan's job is to do exactly what he's doing, right? But he can't do any of this unless Ronaldo hands it to him, right? So this is getting how Pierce Morgan markets this interview is the least of all else, because at the end of the day,
what I'm saying is there could be other things in this interview that he isn't putting out there because he knows it's not going to do the clicks, and that's my point.
Well, he's going to put the whole interview out. I mean, the whole interview will be broadcast.
That's why. Why did he not just put that out straight away, though?
Because that's not his job. His job is to drive clicks, is to drive eyes. But he's not trying to disguise that fact from you. You know,
he's trying to get as many as possible.
Drug dealer's job is to give you product. How you consume it's up to you. You know, there's no disguising what my job is. This is what I do. If he gives me that interview, I do exactly the same thing because that's his job. So, you know, Roy Keane, that's his job. You don't thank the postman for delivering your letters, right? So, for Pierce Morgan, I despise the creep, right? But he's the least of all ills here. You know, at the end of the day, every single excerpt that's in that interview, if there's anything that's broadcastable and marketable, it's because Cristiano Ronaldo said it. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo could have done an hour and a half interview filled up with fluff and nonsense, in which case he'd have nothing to market. So everything that's in there is because of the result of Ronaldo saying so. I think we're nearly out of time anyway, mate. But we didn't get a chance to talk about Garnacho. We'll do that later on in the week.
Definitely.
Give me your sum up how you feel about all of this.
I think Ronaldo's wrong. I think we should terminate his contract. I don't agree with you that he should be kept around the place because clearly he's not a good influence if this is what's happened. I'll reserve my full judgment until I see the full interview because I don't think you understand what I'm saying in terms of Pierce Morgan driving the clicks. But my point in that is that I think Pierce Morgan has picked out certain snippets of this to make Ronaldo look. There could be points that Ronaldo says things that are completely understandable in this interview, but we're not going to see them because they don't drive the clicks. I'll reserve my full judgment till the end, but I don't think it'll change my mind in terms of I think Ronaldo should go. I think it's time's up, and I think we need to back the manager in January and get a good striker in.
I agree that he should go, that the prudent thing to do is to get rid of him, use that money and get a striker in January. The childish thing to do would be to sideline him. As for Pierce Morgan sensationalising the interview, I haven't seen that. I've seen him broadcast video clips to do the talking for themselves. I've seen newspaper articles claim people have said things in interviews that they haven't actually said. Maybe a headline turns around and says, Cristiano Ronaldo slams Eric Ten Hag when he didn't really. Right? I've seen that happen. Obviously, that's the nature of social media, but I haven't seen that happen here. The video is so shocking in itself. What Ronaldo says, he doesn't need to sensationalise it. That does it itself. The fact he's releasing it in excerpts, and from what I heard this too, that Ronaldo sought out. I was listening to Andy Mitten's podcast on this. Pierce Morgan. It was very deliberate. Who he did that with, and that is of course his loyalty towards people that serve him. You know, so. Totally unnecessary. Timing of it's disgraceful. None of this helps Manchester United in any way. None of this is good for the football club. I feel for young Garnacho, who should be living today with all the headlines about him, who was sensational at the weekend, so exciting to watch. And instead, we're talking about this nonsense. But I think it has to have a similar outcome that happened with Roy Keane. When Roy Keane did that MUTV interview, I think United have to now move Ronaldo out because his association with United now is no longer marketable or no longer helpful on the pitch. So, and also, I'm not sure he would be good to have around kids anyway at this point with his attitude. So we'll go ahead and leave it there. Colm, all the best, mate.
See you soon, alright?
Cheers, folks. Thanks for all the watches. Thanks for all the downloads, everything. Clicks. Much appreciated. Take care.